Alright, Peace and Greetings YouTubers. So I wanted to talk to you all about the National Museum of African American History and Culture. The biggest thing I would like to say is that when you get a chance, when you are in the DC metropolitan area, you have to find your way to this museum. I mean, even if you're not in that area, if you're in Charlotte, you go ahead and make that drive. If you're in New York, go ahead and do that 4-hour drive. Find your way to this museum. I think it is something that everybody has to experience and has to see at some point. And I really want to say, like, this is a museum that is so well put together and so polished, and you can tell that they really put some effort into it. And if you know the history of, them trying to put together this museum, this has been something that's been ongoing since 1915. It was originally supposed to be a museum dedicated to, black veterans who served in the military, and all kind of things happened between 1915 and the present where stuff was canceled or stuff was voted down, or, they couldn't get the space, permit, or they couldn't get this. And then, long story short, Smithsonian, I think, bought the rights to the museum or something like that. And oddly enough, George Bush #2 was the one who signed off on the paperwork for it to finally, be what it, to happen. And so it finally opened in 2016. And it was kind of something I had been waiting for, because I would drive past the construction zone every day when I went to work. And so now that it had finally opened, I was like, finally. And I've gone twice. And I just have to say, like, it's such a detailed museum. There's so much in there. There's just so much to see, so much to do. And I think it appeals to the learning aspects of any kind of learner. If you're a visual learner, a million things to look at. If you're somebody who more so likes to read and you're detail-oriented, a million different things to look at and read. If you're somebody who needs, you like kinetic energy, you like to move, you like to touch things, there's a bunch of interactive exhibits. So it's something that pleases everybody. And overall, the museum, from what I was told when you're going in there, you're basically walking the distance of a mile by the time you go from the beginning of the museum to the end, because it's all, I think it's like 5 floors, maybe, I don't know. There's a section of floors that kind of maze into each other, so I don't really know how many floors that is, but I think it's 5 or 6 floors. And but it's 85,000 square feet, and literally with each step that you take, there's something to see. So as you take a step, boom, oh, I gotta look at this. You take another step, oh boom, I gotta look at this. And so it's not a museum where you walk 10 feet and there's a picture and a little inscription under it, and then you walk another 10 feet and no, it's like literally something everywhere. It's just so detailed, it's extremely well put together. And I think they do a great job of just telling the history. Now I will say the history that they tell is the history from about the 1400s until the present. And what I did appreciate is that, even though our history does not start with slavery as they tell us in school, the museum still low-key does that in a way, but before they get to slavery, they do spend some time talking about what the world was like in the 1400s, what the European economies were like, what the African economies were like, what it was like in the African kingdoms. And I like that they show that many of these African kingdoms and empires were civilized, and they had their own wealth, they had everything else going for them. And so, because the narrative that we're always given is that, the Europeans came to these barbaric coastlines of just crazy Africans, and we civilized them and we took them, and that's what white people always love to tell. And so the museum does a great job of dispelling that and shutting that down. And so I appreciate that. And so the museum is kind of broken into, I want to say, like 3 sections. The lower section is the narrative of what happened during slavery and the Nadir period / Jim Crow sharecropping era. So there's that bit, and then there's another section that's more of the cultural center of the museum that kind of talks about the contributions of organizations and churches and let me see, I want to say revolutionaries and political fighters and politics and stuff like that. And then the top floor is more pop culture, music, and things like that. But overall, like, the museum is just, it's very well put together. There's so much to see, and I would say you have to go through the whole museum, because if you only do the lower portion, you're going to leave the museum ready to fight everybody. And if you only go to the top portion, and you're somebody who's not well studied on history, and you're somebody who believes that black people have nothing to complain about in 2017, and that we're all equal now because there's a black president that's still in power for like 3 more days, and I don't know, Beyonce has stadium tours, you need to go to the first few floors, because it does a great job of letting you know and understand why the element of slavery and Jim Crow and structural oppression and institutionalized racism affects commerce today and how it still pretty much runs the world. They do a great job of explaining that. And so I would love for a lot of the people who love to challenge me on this channel to go and make sure they see those first 3 floors. But I mean, there's so many artifacts and so many different things to see. It's just, I could spend all day talking about it, but I'm trying to make my videos a little bit shorter this year, because I noticed I would do these 20 and 30-minute videos all last year. They just kept getting longer and longer. So the museum is an experience. It's a lot. And I will say, it's very intense in some elements, especially as you're on the floors dealing with slavery. And like I said, they're very detailed. Like with the slavery floor, there's like literally they tell the experience of what it was like in each state. They tell the experience of, what was the main crop in this state? What was the main crop in that state? What were they trading? What was the economy like? They have replicas of the currency that was used, because, each state had their own currency. They talk about, the implementation of religion and what kind of punishments people had. And, that portion, it's very, very detailed. They have elements and pieces and artifacts from some of the actual slave ships. They have, some of the tools and stuff that the people had used. And the museum is more than just slavery and Jim Crow. It's a lot. They talk about the politics of the country. They're talking about laws that were put into place. They're talking about, amendments that were made. They talk about the real history behind the Civil War, not that one they give us in K through 12 education. They talk about so many different things, and they really spend a lot of time also talking about our achievements and what we were able to accomplish and how we were still resilient through all the nonsense that was brought upon us. And as you get to the higher floors, then it's more of a euphoric experience, because now you're seeing what we contributed to pop culture and music and sports and politics and science and education and all these different things. There's just so much to see. I don't want to really spoil it and just tell you everything that what to expect, but I mean, it's well put together. There's lots of video screens and movies and little theaters you can stop and sit in it and watch specials on, and there's just so many different things, and the layout is brilliant. Like when you go in when you get in the museum, you get in this elevator that's like a time machine that takes you back to the 1400s, and as you're going down in the elevator, mind you, the walls are glass, you see these different years, and they're time stamps, and it shows you significant events that happened in those years. And as you get off that first floor, it takes you down into that basement. And so you start off in the 1400s, and like the hallway is very narrow, the lights are dim, and it tries to give you that gloomy feeling of what it would have been like during that time period. So it's a little uncomfortable because you're kind of shoulder to shoulder, but the exhibits are just so detailed and so well thought out. And so you're just intrigued and you just can't stop. Like literally, I've gone twice, and I still haven't been able to see everything because it's just that detailed. Like the first time I went, I was in there for like 5 or 6 hours. Second time I went, I was in there for another 5 or 6 hours. I still haven't seen everything in that museum because it's that detailed. And so if you're going there because you want to recognize and understand and see the impact that you've had on pop culture, that you and your ancestors, that museum does that. If you want more of the historical aspect of just what was going on back in the day, because maybe you weren't taught that, you get that. If you want to know the politics and just the systematic way of how the world worked during that time period and how it works today, you get it from this museum. Lots of really cool artifacts. My favorite floor, of course, it was the very top floor. This is the floor that has all the music. I'm a music head, so really cool things. Like they had the ship that Parliament used to use on stage, the mothership. I think they had Chubby Checker's car in there. There was like Michael Jackson artifacts and Earth, Wind & Fire and Diana Ross. And I mean, they go after everything. What I like about the music floor too is that they capture everything, every genre, not just R&B and soul and rock, but it's like jazz. It's any element of music you can think of, somehow we're in that mess. We are in it. They let you know who started what. They have these really great videos that show, performances and stuff like that. There's a great tribute to black comedians, a great tribute to black television, theater. Of course, there's a sports exhibit that's very well put together. There's a tribute to blacks who served in the military, a tribute to Greek organizations, the different denominations within the black church, the different community organizations, different pioneers, and there's even a tribute to just everyday people. There's this big giant screen that's like the size of a boardroom table, and like there's maybe like 1,000 pictures on it, and you just touch a picture and drag it over, and it, the picture will enlarge, and you can read the description of the picture, and it might be like, oh, this is so and so, and this is their experience living in America in 1961 in Jacksonville, Florida. And then there's another one where it's like, well, this is their experience living in Eugene, Oregon in 2011. And it's really cool because it's just everyday people, or not just everyday people, but it's everyday people. It's us. And then there's also, what I like is all of the elements that are there when they're talking about all these historical figures. They also tell you about just everyday people. It's not just all Martin Luther King and Rosa like you usually get. in your history book. It's everybody. There's a space dedicated to those who fought for Black Revolution, those who were, Black revolutionaries. So yes, of course, Malcolm X is in there, and Martin is in there, but there's Elaine Brown and Fred Hampton and Medgar Evers and all these different groups and different people, and it's just so detailed, and Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. It's just so much. And they talk about how the music impacted the culture and this and that, and what we were doing in the sciences, and I mean literally anything you can think of is in there. We're just all over. And I mean, this is just one element of our story. It's not even everything, because to be honest, that museum, I would love for it to be like 4 times larger, because there's just that much there's just so much to tell about our history and what we come from, what we're doing now. I like that the museum is even current. So things that have even happened just as recently as a few months ago is in there. There's a really great exhibit to Fences, the production, not the film, but the actual play. And there's just so many different things in there. Alvin Ailey. It just goes on and on and on. The politics is really great too, as far as understanding the history of America, what was going on during that time period, the mood of America, and it's very transparent. It doesn't give you this Sesame Street, all is well, the black people were sad but they had hope and they moved it. No, it was like the black people were sad and they had hope, and even as they had the hope, white people came and burned that down too. And then, as the black people tried to pick up the ashes, white people took the ashes and threw them 10 miles down the street and made the black people go chase them. And as the black people still had hope to chasing the ashes, the white people came and they beat them down. It goes in. So it's not even, so some people may be a little uncomfortable because there's no filter. There's no cut card. It's very transparent. Emmett Till's casket is in there. They have a replica of a segregated train car in there. They have, of course, the Little Klan outfits and stuff are in there. There's just so many different things. And it's such a good museum. You have to see it. It's well put together. I love that the person who was like the architect, or, it's a person that was from Ghana, and they have a really great memorative space for them. I think I just made up a word, but don't judge. For them, and so it's excellent. So make sure when you get a chance, go to this museum, and it's free. All you gotta do is show up. Right now they're kind of backlogged because of the high demand, but as they do have same day admission though. You just have to, I think you have to go online like 6 in the morning though. But as the year progresses on, you'll be able to just walk in. And by the way, the food is excellent. Like I had this stuffed trout, something with some kind of stuffing and greens and potato salad. That crap was so good. So good. And so the museum this is not just any hole in the wall museum. It's well put together. It's so nice. And you leave that museum feeling so empowered. Like I left that museum and went straight to work on my album. Like I was just working on stuff. Like you leave that museum and you want to build a spaceship, and you think you're George Washington Carver, and you want to go and get some plants and figure out how to turn a plant into some kind of natural reusable resource and somehow get it to power a plane. Like that's what you feel like when you leave. So it's important, like I said, that you go to all the sections, because if you only go to the oppressive part of the museum, you're going to leave out of that museum oppressed and ready to fight everybody, and then they're going to have to put you on, the terror watch list before the inauguration to make sure that you won't pop off that day. And if you only go to the portion where it shows our successes, you may be bamboozled, and you may think that there's nothing left to fight for and we're all good. All we got to do is just live. So I really enjoy the museum. It's excellent. It's so excellent. The music, the sounds, the visuals. There's so much to look at. It's just visually appealing and appeasing. It's just, I could just spend the night up in there, to be honest. Like I'd take a mattress and lay on in the corner, and y'all just leave me be. That's the museum for me. So make sure that you go and you check it out, and then also just support a lot of the other museums in the area. There's a Black and Wax Museum in Baltimore that's not too far away. There's an African Art Museum that's like down the street from that museum. In Old Town Alexandria, there's an African American History Museum. So just make sure you check out all the museums, because history is important no matter how it's presented. Make sure that you get it. And yeah, if you've been there, share your thoughts, and I'm out. Subscribe.